Hey, beautiful souls, are you a student on the cusp of your counseling journey? Or maybe even a seasoned professional working for somebody else but dreaming of launching your very own private practice? If so, I would love for you to join my incredible coaching membership today. It's tailor-made for therapists just like you, offering step-by-step support 24/7 because you know what, we're in this together. Plus, I've even got courses and CPD trainings included to help fuel your growth. I know, I love it so much and I hope you do too. Discover the path to your dream private practice your way. Dive into the supportive community and get some quick guidance, accountability, and real connections. It's your business and I've got your back. So join me now and make your dreams a reality. Head over to my website today. The link is in the show notes and the membership is called Private Practice 101. I'll see you there. Bye. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. This is the first podcast for counsellors that just don't align with the traditional approaches to business and that want to use their spiritual gifts, talents, and interests to create, you guessed it, a private practice with soul. So look, leave it to me to provide you with everything you need, including strategies that you can use to increase your income, reduce your workload, and of course, increase inquiries and referrals to your beautiful soul-led private practice. I love it so much. If you haven't done it already, grab your journal, grab your pen, and let's begin. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and today we are talking about going from survival to thriving and balancing your financial energies in your lovely private practice. And this has come about because somebody requested it. The message that I received, I'm not going to say her name or anything like that, but she just sort of shared, hey Brooklyn, I've been listening to your podcast, Money Mindset, Business of Being in Business. Another breakthrough from me. Wow. I discovered I've been in money survival mode all my life. Your words regarding generational money, mindset, and trauma brought it all out for me. I had no clue until now. Here's my question. How do I get myself from survival mode to thriving mode? I still seem to be at a standstill with how to move on. Any ideas are gratefully accepted. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you haven't heard that episode, you can go back and have a bit of a listen. It might be useful for you to do that before you listen to today's. But of course, you can always just dive into today's as well. It's totally up to you. Right. So I think it's really important that we begin by understanding, what survival mode is. So basically, when we're operating in survival mode, doesn't matter if it's in your business or if it's in your life, we're talking about your money here. What happens is we start to make decisions from a space of fear. We start to make decisions based on our fears around money. What happens if I spend this money and then I needed it for something else? Or we procrastinate around spending our money because we want to hold on to it for a little bit longer. So although we have an invoice and that invoice is due, we hold on to that money for a few days, perhaps a few days longer than we should, because it doesn't feel good to send it out. Will that money come back? Will that money be replaced? Somebody's taking money from me. Someone's, how come, this is like a leaky bucket, my bank account, every time I put money in it, it's coming out. Do you know what I mean? All those kinds of things. And so it causes very, very unhealthy patterns of behavior that when we have them in our personal life, we then bring them into the business, right? And so what this looks like in business is things like saying, oh, what do you mean I've got to pay $17 for this resource that I need? Does anybody have a free version? Does anyone have a free copy? Or my favorite, is anyone willing to share? I think when people ask the question, is anyone willing to share their, terms and conditions, or is anybody willing to share their complaints policy or something like that? I think that's so disrespectful because some other person had to deal with our own money mindset and invest the money, whatever it was, to buy those things. And so by you coming along saying, oh, would you like to share them with me? I think that's really rude. And that's totally my opinion. And maybe, we've got different ideas about it, but I think it's really rude to be asking people to share resources that they themselves have coughed up, hard-earned money for. So we find ourselves trying to do everything on the cheap, or trying to use all the free things. And then when we're in survival mode in our private practice, we're like, I'm not going to go and do that program. I'm not going to pay for those nice business cards. I'm going to, use the free version of Wix for my website. Do you know what I mean? And, you can do all of those things, but they don't help you build a successful private practice anytime soon. And I know there are going to be some people say, oh, well, I did with Wix. And this is nothing against Wix, by the way. I'm just giving you an example. The problem with being in survival mindset is the emotion that it brings into the business. Now, there's certainly space, I believe, for emotion in business, but they need to be constructive, healthy, grounded, emotionally mature, emotionally intelligent feelings that we have about the business and attitudes that we have about the business. When we start getting emotions and feelings coming into the business that are maladaptive and they're not healthy, you set yourself up for all kinds of drama when it comes to your business. And we certainly don't want that. What this looks like is maybe, I don't know, if you're in survival mode, maybe you do things in your business like you look for the cheapest bookkeeper, you look for the cheapest supervisor. You go into groups and you say, does anyone know a good and cheap supervisor? And if I had $1 for every time somebody had submitted that post to the Counsellors Connect Australia group, I could probably, no, I was going to say I could retire. That's not true. I was just trying to prove a point. It's a question that's asked a lot, and it's so offensive to, those lovely people that did go ahead and invest money and time and energy and effort into training to get that qualification, not okay. So you end up, I guess, being in an energy of nothing's enough. You're always chasing. You always know or believe that, you're missing out. And then there's also feelings of resentment. So you're like resentful that a supervisor is going to charge you, $180 for a session. If you did it, you would do it free. Or if you did it, you would do it for $80, right? It brings up resentment. It brings up all these feelings and other behaviors that don't help you in your business either. For example, again, the number of times I've had people say to me, so I'm just going to use Private Practice 101 as an example. That started off at $7, right? It's now $77. And I've got Private Practice 101 Lite, which is $7. But there are still people that will come to me and say, can they just join free? And when we're in this state, what you're doing is you're disempowering yourself because you're not valuing yourself. Now, I know there's always an argument for what if I can't afford it. We're not talking about that today. We're talking about getting out of survival mode, which has nothing to do with whether or not financially you can afford things, right? And I believe if you really want something, you find a way. I believe as women in private practice, we're very resourceful, right? We didn't get to where we are today by taking the easy path. We've all had very difficult lives. We've all overcome so many challenges in so many different ways. We are nothing if not resourceful. And I 100% believe if there's something you wanted to do for your business, you would find a way to make it happen. But when you're in that survival mode and you're making decisions from fear and you're making decisions from scarcity or you're making decisions from lack, all that's going to happen is we're bringing in unwanted energy into the business, and that's going to be reflected back to you in all sorts of ways. Right? In all sorts of ways. If you're in survival mode, for example, you're probably going to market your practice in a very general way, saying that you're you just like to help people, and not having a niche and not being really specific and grounded in that. So it's going to take you forever to fill your diary. And then you're probably going to start lowering your prices to fill your books because you're in survival mode and you feel like you need the money now. You're going to be late on payments for things you're not going to be getting the best of the things that your business needs. And as a result of that, you're not going to feel great, but also there's a ripple effect, which means that your clients get the impact of you not spending the money in the way that your business needs it to be spent at that point in time, depending on what your business plan is. In fact, you probably don't even have a business plan, right? Because you're living week to week, day to day, session to session, and you're counting all the pennies. And in fact, when you're living in survival mode in your business, you're probably getting some kind of emotional, very strong, visceral reaction. You feel it in your body. It's very somatic to things like direct debits. Oh no, my Zero payment just came out for $65. I had no idea that was, how dare they take that money from me? We say things like that. We say, take that money from me. They haven't taken any money from you. They coughed up a service that you enjoyed and you got, and now you're having to pay for it. They're not taking money from you. One of the things, not my current money coach, but a different coach shared with me a while ago was, how did she put it? An invoice is a bill for blessings already received. And I really love that. That just makes so much sense. Okay. Other signs of being in financial survival mode include things like being constantly worried about the money, and living in the short term. So thinking about what can I afford today? So we're not thinking about you 12 months down the track or 5 years down the track. You're making decisions from where you are today. Instead of making decisions, you hear so many people talk about this. Warren Buffett talks about it. What's his name? Someone Kawasaki talks about it. Tony Robbins talks about it. Stephen Covey spoke about it. This idea of when you're in business, you start with an end in mind. You need to be focusing on making decisions from the version of you that's where you want to be, right? It's like reverse engineering. So in our business of private practice, what that looks like is thinking, okay, where do I want the business to be in 12 months' time? Well, I want the business to be turning over $3,000 every week. Amazing, fantastic. You're not there yet. You're nowhere near that at the moment. But you have to start making decisions from that version of you that is receiving the $3,000 a week and doing it consistently. So does that version of you go and pay, for example, $7 for a private practice program or $77 for a private practice program? Or are they shopping around for free stuff? Or are they actually valuing their education, their knowledge, all those kinds of things, and finding ways to make it work, right? That's the difference. Always be, when you're making any decision, not just financial ones, the quickest way to collapse time. We speak about collapsing time. Nobody really understands what it means. So I'll just tell you quickly. Collapsing time simply means, how can we get the same result more quickly, right? So if you're in survival mode and you're piecing everything together, all the free things, and you're fighting against spending money, you're arguing for why you can't afford things, right? So you're saying things like, oh, I need to check with my partner. Oh, I'll do it later in the year. Oh, I don't have time for it right now, but I'll come back. When you're arguing for your own limitations, you're going to stay in that space of restriction or limitation. And it's going to take you that much longer to get from point A to point B than if you collapse time. And collapsing time means spending money on things that are going to give you that outcome more quickly, like a mentor or a coach or a supervisor or a course or a piece of software or a platform or a diary or booking system or whatever it is. Collapsing time is the quickest way for you to get from where you are now to where you want to be. And the only way to collapse the time is to get out of survival mindset by starting to make decisions from who you are in the future, who you want to be in the future, and the type of practice you want to have 12 months from now, right? The other thing around understanding survival mode is really getting clear on the role of generational money mindset in perpetuating things like survival mode. So my family, for example, I think I spoke about this on a previous episode, but on my father's side, he's Dutch, my father, and my mum's German. So on my father's side, all the men, like generation after generation after generation, they were all in the Navy. They were all on big boats, and they were all broke. And all the conversations were around, how much money they didn't have, how it was unfair, how, rich people were greedy and we don't like rich people and all that kind of stuff, right? So that gets passed on and passed on and passed on and passed on. When I was growing up, I got all of that from my dad. I got all the stuff from my mum's side because her side had stuff as well. And then I had my own experiences mixed in with that as well, of growing up being told, hey, we're living below the poverty line over here. You put that down, you can't afford it. No, you can't go on that school excursion. We can't afford it. You're going to have to go and sit in another classroom for the day, by yourself in a corner because we can't afford for you to go on that excursion. So, all that programming happened for me, and it happens for all of us, okay? And what we mean about intergenerational is two things. We learn from our parents, or caregivers or whoever's raising us and looking after us. We get their money stories projected onto us, right? So if they've got their own views about money, they tell us what their views are. We internalize that because we trust them, we believe them, and we adopt their view of the world, right? Often without questioning. That's how this happens. And then the other thing is I've just forgotten the term for it, but it will come back to me. But it's also passed on through your DNA. As I said, there's a phrase for it, a term for it. I mentioned it in a previous podcast, but it's just escaped me right now. But the science behind this, epigenetics, that's what it is. So the science behind this that shows that things that your grandparents and ancestors experienced, you still have responses to today. So, for example, there was an experiment that was done. Sorry if you've already heard this, but I'll just be super quick about it. But there was an experiment that was done with rats. And the scientists had all these rats in little cages, and they electrified the bottoms of the cages at the same time that they puffed cherry blossom scent into the cage for the rats. So every time the cherry blossom scent came in, the rats would get stimulated on their feet, on the soles of their little feet. They weren't hurt or anything, but anyway, so they did that. And then what ended up happening was eventually those rats have their own rats, and then the parent rats all die, and then the next generation of rats don't get stimulated on their soles of their feet. They don't get electrocuted or anything, but they do get the puff of the cherry blossom, and they freak out for no reason. They've never had any experience of the cherry blossom scent before, but they freak out and they start panicking, and they're hopping from foot to foot to foot. And then the scientists took that experiment further, and they tested multiple generations. And so this went on for like 7 generations. So even by the time the 7th generation of rat was born, it had no experience whatsoever of being electrocuted or having anything bad happen themselves with the cherry blossom smell, but they were still having that same reaction for no apparent reason. So thinking about how you react to money, some of this could be, is likely to be, also resultant from how we say ancestors, but like your parents, your parents' parents, your parents' parents' parents, going back like that, how they handled money and what their experiences with money were. Now, remember, for many of us, our parents lived through wars, they lived through famines, or all this kind of thing. So for many of us, we do have ancestral patterns and triggers around money, and this does affect us in our business, as you've heard before, by things like putting off paying your invoices, procrastinating over here, looking for cheap things or free things. Do you know what I mean? Trying to do everything yourself instead of saying, do you know what? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to go on a learning curve. I don't want to stuff it up. I'm just going to pay somebody, some money to go and do this for me, right? All these sorts of things happen. But the good thing is that when you have awareness and you can recognize your own mode patterns when it comes to survival, you are then well placed to be able to create some changes. Okay, so think about, like, if we take I love to use the lens of the masculine and feminine in my business. So if we think about the feminine energy, right, that energy is all about self-awareness, nurturing that self-awareness, cultivating intuition. And it's all about receiving. So in order for us to get into that space, we first need to look at implementing systems for the divine masculine energy to come through, right? So the qualities of the divine masculine energy, for those of you who are new to this idea, are things like having structure, having discipline, taking action, setting goals, making progress, planning, all those kinds of things. And these are all really, really, really important in terms of your business finance, right? Because they're going to make the feminine energy feel safe to receive. Okay, feel safe to receive. So if you're finding in your practice that you're in survival mode and you're aware of that now, and you want to start getting better at getting money coming into the practice, but also holding on to that money and making better decisions about how you're going to use that money, you need to have things in place. So have a look at what structures you've got to hold or contain money at the moment. Meaning, have a look at your bank accounts. Do you have just your personal bank account, all your money's going into that? Or do you have a bank account for the business, right? In that business bank account, do you have 2 or 3 little accounts? So one for everyday transactions, one for your superannuation, and maybe one for your tax. Do you have those kinds of structures in place? If not, who could you speak to that could support you in, getting those things set up? Now, it's easy to do. You can do them online yourself. I opened up a Commonwealth bank account in November and I set up all my little bank accounts myself. Do you have processes in place that support you financially, like when money lands into your business bank account? Have you set up things like scheduled payments? So a scheduled payment to yourself, so you're getting paid, a scheduled payment to your superannuation, so it's getting paid. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you got those things set up? Have you got a little savings account set up, in your business account to pay for random things that you want to do? Like, maybe you wanted to go and get one of those website audits that I did for $50, last month or the month before, but the money wasn't there. Would you like to take advantage of something like that in future and support yourself in being able to do so by setting up a scheduled payment that says, okay, every time money lands into this bank account, X% going into this account over here for my random business expenses, right? So that's why it's really important. In order for you to get out of survival mode, you need to have structures in place that are going to support you. You need to also have the right policies in place and be really comfortable using them. So what that looks like is making sure you've got your cancellation policies in place. And if you're uncomfortable handling the money, ask somebody for help setting up automations in your private practice management software so that you can step back from dealing with the money. So some popular automations that can really help you out are things like an automation that's going to take a deposit or take a payment, an automation that's going to send an invoice to a third party, things like that. So setting up all sorts of automations can really, really help you around the structure and the processes. If you can hear whimpering and crying, it's because Buddy, my 9-month-old now, Cavalier Cross Maltese, this week has learned how to hide food. We might call it burying food, but he's in my study, so there's nowhere to bury it. So he's trying to squeeze his biscuit, Bone, in between my desk and it's hard to describe. It's like a bookshelf thing, but there's nothing to bury it over. So he's getting upset about it. So you can probably hear scratching and whimpering. It's just him getting upset about. He's worried that I concede the bone, which is ridiculous because I'm the one that gave him the bone. I'm not going to take it off him. My goodness me. He just doesn't want me to have it. But I know it's just instinct. And isn't it amazing that they learn how to do all of this stuff without having another dog here, by the way, to show him? Like, he's not modeling this off anyone. It's just he was just like the other day, I think I'm going to start burying bones. I was like, okay, off you go. Okay, so having policies in place, having automations in place, having systems in place that are going to help you with the money. One of the things that can be really helpful too is if you've got a regular payment coming out, maybe even make a note of that in your calendar. So if you're using Google Calendar or iCal or something like that, even popping it in as a little appointment that says car registration due next week. Give yourself the heads up. Oh, he's having a drink now. Give yourself the heads up so that you can plan and prepare for it. That will really, 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 really help you. Okay. What else did I want to share? In order to be able to stop money leaking, in order to be able to stop money going out of the business, you need to have those systems in place, and that's what's going to help the feminine hold on to things. She is all about receiving, okay? She is all about receiving. The masculine is about providing and giving. The feminine is about receiving and nurturing and doing all those lovely things. So when it comes to moving from survival mode to thrive, she cannot move into thriving if you haven't set up the right systems, because she won't feel safe. She's going to be thinking, oh, okay, money's coming in, but it's also going out over there, and I've been caught off guard with this random bill that's coming in and I can't trust. She needs to be able to trust that you've set the business up the right way. So if you do a review of the systems and the structures and the policies and the procedures that you've got around money and the automations in your private practice, do a review, see what needs to be refined or improved, and go from there. If you still feel unsafe around the money, it's a sign that you need to connect in and look more deeply at what's my actual fear here, what's my resistance here, what's my pattern here, what is this behavior protecting me from, or what's it trying to tell me. Okay. And I bet you it's going to be that you need to fix up something that you thought was fixed and you thought it was fine, it looked okay on paper, but in reality, perhaps this structural process around the money in the business needs to be updated or tweaked or changed a little bit. Okay. There are also, for those of you who find yourself, you've sorted out your systems and like you feel like, yeah, okay, I feel better now. I've made those changes. I can trust in that. The next thing for you to do then is to really start on feminine energy embodiment work, which is going to be doing things like visualizing abundance. So if you're in Private Practice 101, you've got a few meditations in there that you can listen to that will support you on visualizing abundance for your business, okay? You want to also start doing things like trusting your intuition. So that means if you're, I don't know, in a place where you see a program or a course or a supervisor and you get excited by that, instead of defaulting to old thinking of I can't afford it, I'll do it later, I wonder if somebody who's done it can share the resources with me. Instead of defaulting to that thinking, start thinking, okay, this feels good for me. Where do I notice it in my body that it's feeling good? Is it in my heart space? Is it in my solar plexus? Like, where am I feeling it? What does it feel like? Does it feel effervescent? Do I feel tingly? Do I feel sparkly? Or do I feel really calm? But I bet you're going to feel energized. How would I describe that energy? What's this energy telling me? What is this energy telling me? And that's what your intuition is for, right? Connecting in. If you see something and you get excited about it, that's usually a sign that it's meant for you. And that energy is like a notification, if you like what we get on our phones, that, hey, this is for you. Go and do this thing. What would happen if you allowed yourself to trust your intuition and go and do the thing, right? You're going to start collapsing time, which means you're going to start to create financial abundance in your business a lot more quickly than if you didn't. Make sense? So it's about balancing, but in terms of balancing the masculine and the feminine, it is linear. We need to have the masculine set up first so that then the feminine can come in. You know me, I love to use that analogy of the house. It's the masculine that's got the blueprint, who then builds the house, who puts all the windows and the doors and the plumbing and all of that in place. Then when it's at lockup, that masculine energy then says to the feminine, okay, great, you come in and do your thing. And the feminine will come in and make it a beautiful space and furnish it in a really lovely way and put curtains and drapes and floorboards and carpets and different textures and different scents and put music on and do all those things. And then she'll bring in the people, right? Because she loves people. So she's going to start bringing people in, and this is now a home, right? It's gone from shell of a building. She has made it a home. And these are all the ways that she does that. But she can't invite those people in, and she can't make something pretty if she doesn't trust the house is still going to be standing tomorrow, right? That's what I'm saying. Those foundations need to be there from the masculine. Those structures need to be there so she trusts that's safe for her to bring people in, for her to receive. Okay, they're going to be coming. They're going to be bringing housewarming gifts, if you like. So she's got to be okay receiving those. So thriving mode in the context of business finances looks like things like financial stability. So knowing that you're going to pay yourself this minimum amount every single week, that's financial stability. Knowing that you can afford to pay your outgoings, that's financial stability. Knowing that, everything's covered, that's financial stability. Knowing that you've got more bookings coming through, that you've got booking policies in place, that your aftercare program's set up, all those things are about financial stability. But also thriving mode in the context of your business finances looks like growth. So growth in terms of, how do I grow the money? How do I grow my resources? How do I grow my assets here? How do I grow my knowledge? And usually that growth is going to start with personal development, because you don't know what you don't know. You're going to have to do personal development, but also business development. So the two are linked, okay? You can go do all the, Joe Dispenza courses, Gabby Bernstein courses, whatever courses you like in the world. But they alone are not going to create financial growth in your business. Or you could go and do all the business development in the world, and you could learn all the tools and all the strategies and all the structures you need to have to create that thriving in your finances. But it won't work if you don't have the right mindset behind it. This is the masculine, the feminine energy into play, right? In order to get results more quickly, we need to have both things in place, okay? So I would really encourage you to, listen to this episode, maybe re-listen to it if you like, go back and listen to the other one, but set some intentions for yourself. You don't have to make big intentions that go for 6 months or 12 months or 5 years. Why don't you make a 30-day intention around your finances? And it doesn't have to be to make this much money. The intention could be to review 3 business systems or review 3 business structures, or the intention could be to go within and try and connect with what's underneath my reticence about paying bills, and what is that telling me that I need, and maybe creating an action step from that, right? Those things will help you to take inspired action towards financial thriving. Okay, so really have a think about your own financial mindset if you haven't already, and start to take just even 1 or 2 little baby steps towards balancing the masculine energy and the feminine energy for your own financial success in private practice. Okay, I would love to invite you to share your experiences, of course, and share any questions that you would like answered or covered on future episodes. I want to say thank you so much for listening to this episode today. If you loved it and found it helpful, it would be amazing if you could leave a review. You don't have to, of course, but it would be amazing if you could. And yeah, I'd love to direct you to any resources or services that I've got that can help you with money mindset and business growth. And they're in PP 101. So I'll pop the link for that in the show notes, but you can always message me anytime for that and I'll give it to you as well. So I hope that this was really helpful. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. I hope that you loved this episode as much as I loved putting it together for you. To get more resources to help you in your private practice, head over to Instagram. My handle is @theprivatepracticecoach. And also, if you want more inquiries and referrals for your business, let me know. I have a program called Clients on Demand that opens every quarter, and I can absolutely get you some information for that as well. You are doing an amazing job. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world. Bye.